Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Senior Men's Health. I'm Dr. Sofia Carter, and today we're going to talk about something that's been wrapped in confusion, half-truths, and decades of misunderstanding. Yes, we're diving into the topic of the G-spot, what it really is, where it actually is, and why most men have no idea how it truly works. Now, before we start, let me explain why this subject belongs on a men's health channel. Understanding female anatomy and pleasure isn't just about being a better lover, though that's definitely part of it. It's also about connection, communication, and confidence. When men understand how female pleasure works, it changes the emotional and physical dynamic of a relationship. I've seen it time and again over my 20 years of medical practice, couples struggling not because of illness or aging, but because of simple misunderstandings about anatomy and intimacy. Men feel inadequate when they can't please their partners, and women feel unseen or disconnected. Over time, this cycle leads to avoidance, resentment, and loss of closeness. But with knowledge and communication, this cycle can be completely reversed. Let's start with the basics. The G-spot is named after Dr. Ernst Grafenberg, who described it in the 1950s. What many people don't realize is that the G-spot isn't a separate little button or organ waiting to be pressed. It's actually part of a larger structure, the internal portion of the clitoral complex. That's right, the clitoris isn't just that small external nub you can see. It's a much larger internal network made up of the glands, two arms called the crura that extend deep into the pelvis, and two bulb-like structures that sit on either side of the vaginal opening. When you understand that, everything about the G-spot suddenly clicks into place. What we call the G-spot is really the area where you can stimulate the internal parts of the clitoral network through the front wall of the vagina. So it's not a single magic button. It's a region of tissue that connects to the same pleasure system as the external clitoris. Now, this is where most of the confusion comes in. The G-spot's exact location and sensitivity vary from woman to woman. For some, it's very defined and highly sensitive. For others, it's more subtle, or it might not produce intense sensations at all, and that's completely normal. Some women find stimulation in that area deeply pleasurable, others find it uncomfortable, and for some, it doesn't do much at all. That's why the idea of finding the G-spot like it's a buried treasure is misleading. What works beautifully for one person might not work for another. So the goal shouldn't be to locate a magic spot, but to explore together, communicate openly, and discover what feels good for your partner's unique body. Let's talk anatomy for a moment. If your partner is lying on her back, the G-spot area is located on the front wall of the vagina, the wall facing her belly button, not her spine. If you insert a finger about 2 or 3 inches in and curl it upward slightly in a come here motion, you might feel an area that feels a bit different, slightly textured, soft, maybe even a little spongy, like the roof of your mouth. But here's the crucial part. This area doesn't automatically feel good. In fact, when a woman isn't aroused, stimulation there can feel like nothing, or even cause discomfort or a feeling similar to needing to urinate. That's because the tissue in that area contains the Skene's glands, sometimes called the female prostate. When arousal increases, blood flow to the area also increases, the clitoral network swells, and the tissue becomes much more sensitive. So the secret isn't just finding the area, it's timing and context. G-spot stimulation is most effective when your partner is already highly aroused. Think of arousal as a gradual process, not an on-off switch. Most women need 10, 15, even 20 minutes or more of buildup through kissing, touching, and external stimulation before that internal area becomes responsive. Trying to stimulate it too early can feel uncomfortable or simply not pleasurable. Now let's talk about technique, because even when you know where it is, how you approach it matters tremendously. The biggest mistake men make is using too much speed or force, thinking that intensity will increase pleasure. But in reality, the tissue responds best to steady, deliberate pressure, not rapid or aggressive movements. Using your fingers gives you more control and feedback than using the penis, especially during exploration. Try applying consistent pressure with a slow come here motion, or even small circular movements. Sometimes just holding gentle pressure and letting your partner move her hips or shift her angle can make a huge difference. And always pay attention to feedback, both verbal and nonverbal. If she's tensing up, pulling away, or seems distracted, slow down, lighten your touch, or ask what feels better. If she's relaxing, breathing more deeply, and leaning into your touch, you're on the right path. Another key point is that G-spot stimulation works best when combined with external clitoral stimulation. Many women experience the most intense pleasure when both areas are engaged at the same time. This makes perfect sense, since both areas are part of the same clitoral network. Position also plays a huge role. Some sexual positions naturally create better contact with the G-spot. When the woman is on top, she can control depth and angle, finding what feels best for her. Positions where her hips are slightly elevated, like with a pillow under her pelvis in missionary position, can help align the penis with the G-spot area. Even variations of doggy style or lying flat on her stomach can sometimes create the right angle. But here's the truth that many men need to hear. For most women, the external clitoris is the main source of orgasmic pleasure. Research consistently shows that around 70 to 80% of women need direct clitoral stimulation to reach orgasm. Only a small minority, about 20%, can orgasm from penetration alone. That doesn't mean internal stimulation isn't valuable. It can add depth and variety to the experience. But the idea that the G-spot is the holy grail of pleasure is a myth. Every woman's anatomy and response are different. This means the key is not to follow a universal technique, but to learn what works for your partner specifically. Ask questions, experiment together, and make it a shared journey of discovery rather than a goal-oriented task. There's another topic that often comes up in conversations about the G-spot, female ejaculation, sometimes called squirting. Some women, when experiencing intense internal stimulation, may release fluid from the Skene's glands through the urethra. This fluid isn't the same as urine, though it may contain trace amounts since it exits through the same channel. Not all women experience this, and that's perfectly normal. It doesn't mean something is wrong if your partner doesn't, and it doesn't make someone more advanced if they do. Unfortunately, there's a lot of pressure around this, men feeling like they should make it happen, and women feeling like they should be able to do it. But the truth is, it's just one variation of a natural sexual response. If it happens, that's fine. If it doesn't, that's fine too. The best approach is to remove any pressure or expectations around it. If it happens frequently, a towel can help keep things comfortable. The less self-consciousness around it, the more relaxed and connected both partners will feel. Up next, we'll get into the deeper psychological side of pleasure, why safety, trust, and communication are the real keys to unlocking intimate connection, especially as couples age and bodies change. Now that we've covered the physical and anatomical side of the G-spot, let's talk about something even more essential, the psychological and emotional aspects of pleasure. This part often gets ignored, but it's absolutely crucial. The truth is, a woman's ability to experience deep pleasure has as much to do with her mind and emotions as it does with her anatomy. If a woman feels tense, anxious, or self-conscious, her body will literally block arousal. Her muscles may tighten, her breathing may shorten, and the blood flow that makes everything sensitive and pleasurable can be reduced. This isn't something she's doing on purpose. It's simply how the body reacts when it doesn't feel safe or relaxed. That's why creating a sense of comfort, acceptance, and safety is one of the most important things a man can do. Many women carry a lot of stress into intimate situations. They worry about how their bodies look, whether they're taking too long, whether their partner is getting bored or impatient. They might even be thinking about their to-do list or what happened at work earlier. If her mind is busy or her body is tense, it's incredibly difficult for her to fully let go and feel pleasure. This is why connection and emotional presence matter more than technique. If she feels like you're there with her, not judging, not rushing, not performing, but connecting, her body will naturally open up. This means taking your time, being genuinely interested in her pleasure, and reassuring her that there's no pressure or time limit. The goal isn't to get to orgasm quickly. The goal is to enjoy the journey together. The best lovers aren't those with the most tricks or experience. They're the ones who are tuned into their partners, observant, patient, curious, and responsive. They listen not just with their ears, but with their eyes and hands. They notice how her breathing changes, how her body moves, and how she reacts. They adapt moment to moment without ego or agenda. Now let's talk about exploration and communication, because this is where great intimacy truly starts. Instead of approaching sex like a task where you're trying to prove something, approach it as a shared discovery. You might say something like, "I'd love to explore what feels good for you. Can we try different things and you tell me what you like best?" That one sentence can completely change the tone of an experience. It takes the pressure off both of you. You're not expected to know everything, and she's not expected to respond in a specific way. You're learning together. During exploration, encourage her to describe what she's feeling. Simple phrases like "that's nice" or "not there, don't give enough information." Instead, guide her to express what she feels in more detail. "That feels warm. That's too much pressure. That's perfect. Don't change a thing." This kind of dialogue helps you fine-tune your touch and also helps her connect more deeply with her own sensations. Another powerful step is inviting her to show you what she likes. Many women have developed a sense of how to please themselves in ways that work for their unique bodies. Watching or feeling how she touches herself isn't a threat, it's a roadmap. It helps you understand her rhythm, pressure, and timing. The goal isn't to imitate her exactly, but to use that knowledge to bring her the kind of pleasure she already knows works for her. It's also important to remember that what works can change from day to day. Hormones, stress, fatigue, medications, all of these can affect how a woman responds. Something that felt amazing last week might not feel great this week, and that's perfectly normal. That's why communication isn't a one-time conversation. It's an ongoing process. Every encounter is a chance to learn something new. Now let's discuss an area that becomes more relevant as we age: how hormonal changes impact sexual response. As women move through perimenopause and menopause, estrogen levels decline, and this can lead to less natural lubrication, thinner vaginal tissues, and changes in sensitivity. Arousal might take longer or feel different than before. This doesn't mean that pleasure disappears, it just means the approach may need to evolve. Using a high-quality lubricant can make a huge difference. Avoid products with fragrances or harsh chemicals, as these can irritate sensitive tissues. Silicone-based lubricants often last longer and feel smoother, which can help reduce friction and discomfort. Taking more time for arousal also becomes even more important. Think of it as extending the warm-up phase so that her body can catch up to her mind. Gentleness and attentiveness are essential. If something feels uncomfortable, pause, check in, and adjust. Never assume that discomfort means lack of interest. It might just mean that the body needs a little more time or a different approach. What really enhances pleasure at this stage is emotional connection. When both partners feel safe and valued, physical intimacy becomes more meaningful and fulfilling. Interestingly, many couples in their 50s, 60s, and beyond report that their sex lives actually improve with age. They say the pressure to perform fades, and they become more focused on enjoying connection and mutual satisfaction. They slow down, pay attention, and appreciate the experience rather than rushing to the finish line. It's also worth noting that many of the same lifestyle factors that affect male sexual function, things like heart health, blood sugar, stress, and sleep, also affect female arousal. Sexual response depends on healthy blood flow, balanced hormones, and emotional well-being. So when you take care of your own health and encourage your partner to do the same, you're supporting both of your sexual vitality. Now let's talk about variety and playfulness. Once couples figure out what works, they sometimes fall into a routine. And while routine can feel safe, it can also become predictable. Intimacy thrives on a mix of comfort and novelty. That doesn't mean you have to constantly reinvent the wheel or try something wild every time. Sometimes it's as simple as changing the setting, slowing down the pace, or trying a new type of touch. For example, one night you might focus on slow, sensual touch and connection. Another time, the mood might be more passionate or spontaneous. You might switch the order of things, start with massage, or take turns focusing entirely on one partner's pleasure. The key is presence, bringing genuine attention and curiosity to whatever you're doing, rather than going through familiar motions. Another powerful tool for intimacy is anticipation. Sexual energy doesn't have to start in the bedrooms. Sending a thoughtful message during the day, giving a lingering kiss before work, or whispering something playful can plant a seed of excitement that grows throughout the day. When a woman feels desired long before physical intimacy begins, her mind and body start preparing for pleasure long before you even touch her. As relationships mature, this kind of intentional buildup becomes especially important. The excitement that comes naturally in new relationships doesn't fade because attraction disappears. It fades because familiarity replaces novelty. But anticipation can bring that spark back. A simple text that says, "I can't stop thinking about how good it felt to hold you last night," can light a fire that lasts all day. Equally important is touch that isn't always sexual. Gentle physical affection throughout the day, holding hands, hugs, kisses, sitting close, builds comfort and connection. It shows your partner that your touch is an expression of affection, not a demand. I call this touch trust. When your partner knows your touch isn't always a prelude to sex, she relaxes around you, and ironically, that often leads to more satisfying intimacy later. Up next, we'll explore what happens after intimacy, the moments of connection that many couples overlook, and how managing performance anxiety can transform not only your sex life, but your entire relationship. Let's talk about what happens after intimacy, because this part often determines how satisfying the whole experience feels. Many men, after orgasm, naturally feel sleepy or ready to disengage, and that's a normal physiological response. But for women, the emotional connection afterward is just as important as the physical act itself. Taking time to hold her, stay close, or share a few quiet moments together sends a powerful message. It shows that what just happened was about connection, not just release. This period, often called aftercare, is vital for emotional bonding. It might mean cuddling, gentle touch, soft conversation, or simply resting together. When a woman feels that closeness after intimacy, her body releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which reinforces affection and security. Couples who spend a few extra minutes in this kind of affectionate connection consistently report higher satisfaction, both sexually and emotionally. Conversely, when a man quickly turns away, checks his phone, or falls asleep without a word, it can unintentionally leave his partner feeling dismissed, even if that wasn't the intent. So make it a habit to linger a little longer. Whisper something kind, hold her hand, or express appreciation for the time you just shared. These small gestures create a sense of safety and affection that deepens intimacy over time. Now let's touch on something nearly every couple deals with at some point: performance anxiety. Men often feel pressure to perform, to last long enough, to bring their partner to orgasm, to make every encounter amazing. Women, on the other hand, may feel pressure to respond in a certain way, to climax quickly, or to reassure their partner. All that pressure turns a natural, enjoyable experience into something stressful. Anxiety is one of the biggest barriers to sexual pleasure. When your mind is racing with worry about your performance, your body, or whether your partner is satisfied, your nervous system shifts into a stress response. Blood flow decreases, arousal drops, and focus vanishes. The best thing you can do is take the focus off the end goal. Intimacy isn't a competition or a test, it's a shared moment. Sometimes it helps to have an honest conversation about this pressure. You can say something like, "Let's take orgasm off the table tonight and just enjoy touching and exploring it." This removes the expectation of a specific outcome. Ironically, when the goal disappears, both partners usually relax and end up enjoying themselves even more. Often, removing pressure leads to better connection, longer arousal, and stronger intimacy. It's also important to remember that sexual connection is deeply tied to emotional health. If a couple is carrying unresolved conflict, resentment, or emotional distance, it will show up in their physical relationship. You can't fully connect sexually if you're disconnected emotionally. So, working on your relationship outside the bedroom is one of the best things you can do for your sex life. That means spending quality time together, communicating openly, showing appreciation, resolving disagreements respectfully, and maintaining a sense of friendship. When you feel emotionally close, physical intimacy becomes an extension of that bond. It feels safer, more meaningful, and more satisfying. Another powerful mindset shift is to think of intimacy as an ongoing conversation, not a routine or a checklist. Every encounter is different. Every partner's body changes over time. What worked once may evolve, and that's part of the beauty of it. The most fulfilling sexual relationships are those where both partners remain curious, adaptable, and open to learning from each other. So instead of approaching intimacy like a series of steps you have to perform correctly, approach it as a dance, one where you're always paying attention to rhythm, response, and connection. Sometimes the dance is slow and tender, sometimes playful, sometimes passionate. What matters is that you stay present and move together. And here's something many people don't realize: sexual connection is one of the most powerful indicators of overall relationship health. It reflects communication, trust, respect, and shared vulnerability. When a couple can talk openly about pleasure, boundaries, and desires, they tend to communicate better about everything else too. If you've been in a long-term relationship, don't be afraid to revisit these conversations. Bodies change, desires shift, and comfort zones evolve. What was once off limits may become interesting later, and vice versa. The key is to stay open, keep talking, and keep exploring. When you view intimacy as an evolving journey instead of a fixed routine, it stays vibrant and alive. For men, understanding female anatomy, like the clitoral network and the G-spot, isn't just about technique. It's about empathy and awareness. When you take time to learn how your partner's body works, you show respect for her experience. You become a more confident, attentive lover, and that confidence translates into every other area of your relationship. In the end, great intimacy isn't about mastering one specific skill or position. It's about understanding your partner's body and emotions, staying curious, and making pleasure a shared experience rather than a goal. It's about communication, trust, patience, and presence. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from all of this, it's that connection is the foundation of pleasure. Whether it's exploring new sensations, learning about the G-spot, or simply spending time holding your partner close, it all comes down to one thing: being fully there, together. When you prioritize communication, emotional safety, and genuine curiosity, everything else falls into place. Physical pleasure deepens, confidence grows, and the bond between you strengthens. That's the essence of great intimacy. It's not about performance, it's about partnership. Thank you for joining me today on Senior Men's Health. If this conversation helps shed some light on an often misunderstood topic, please subscribe and share it with someone who might benefit. Remember, understanding your partner is one of the most powerful ways to nurture both your relationship and your own well being. I'm Dr. Sofia Carter, and until next time, remember, real intimacy isn't about perfection. It's about presence, patience, and the willingness to keep learning about each other for a lifetime.